Hey guys, welcome back to another date night with Jesus. I was going to have Andy open it, but I don't know, he doesn't want to talk. Why don't you want to talk?
I love to talk. You just open better.
What? Why?
Because it just sounds better.
You're not excited?
I'm very excited to
I don't
be
know, it
on
doesn't
date
look
night
very
with
exciting.
Jesus. We even have a new guest producer.
I
with
know,
us
we don't
today,
have to
so
click the button ourselves
That's
today.
exactly right.
It's so exciting
So
that
it's
someone
really
else do
date
it.
night with Jesus and Robbie.
Date night with Jesus and Robbie.
So these
Wow.
guys are
What
guys-
a double date, guys.
That's right.
If
These
you don't
guys are
know
in
Robbie, you should be jealous.
It's a fantastic thing.
Carrie
So
would definitely say that too.
I am. We're very, very excited.
So we're still in the book of James.
We are in the book of James.
Right. We got through 11 verses so far.
That's a good thing. That's actually
pretty
good
impressive.
for me. Yeah.
That's impressive in 2 videos.
It is, especially when you add the fact that this is supposed to be a little more lighthearted in nature, right? So that gives more room for some stories and opinions and thoughts and comments. So we're good. Let's get started.
All right. I guess I'm reading.
Guess you are.
Guess I'm reading. So we're in James chapter 1 still, guys, and we're at verse 12. So let's see what it says. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then, when lust has conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Do you want me to keep going?
No, I'm trying to figure out how this is really encouraging for a date.
Super encouraging.
With Jesus, right?
Well, I mean, temptation.
Yeah. Yep.
Temptation is, that's it's what we're all in all the time. It's very relevant to date night.
I think you're right. I think, when you think of date night and you think of dating somebody, whether that's your spouse or whether you're dating to have a spouse or whatever, there's that anticipatory set of wanting and can't waiting and getting ready to be with that person, right? Like I just can't wait for the moment, the day, the time that we can be together, and that ultimately is what we're trying to accomplish here with date night with Jesus, right? We want people to want to be with Jesus, right?
Yep.
And yet we look at a little passage like this and we know that one of the things that sin does is it wrecks that relationship.
Yeah.
Right? And so again, James is on the same page that we're on. He wants our viewers, he wants you, and he wants me, he wants Robbie, he wants all of us to have a fantastic date night with Jesus. Every time we get together with Jesus. And so what we have to be aware of, though, is, man, there's always this potential, isn't there, for the date night to go south. You and I know, because I'm way older, you're partly older, right? But we've been on dates that probably have gone a little south, right?
No, all mine have been fabulous.
So tell me a little bit, not about your specifics, but tell me a little bit about what are the things that help make a date night go south?
I think fear.
Mm-hmm.
It depends. Like if it's a first date kind of thing or a new date kind of thing, definitely fear for sure. Insecurity. If you're not prepared,
Right.
you don't know what you want. You try to fake things. That's I think usually what can mess up dates.
Right. So and we take all that stuff. Wouldn't that be the same thing with Jesus? Right? Fear.
Yeah.
Fear that God's not going to be who we want him to be. Fear he's not going to do what we want him to do. Right. Whether it's, the fact that, listen, I don't really know a lot about God. Right. So I don't even know if I really want to be on a date with him. I don't even know if I really want him. Those kind of things. And then all the other stuff, the thing where we've been in the past, how we've experienced other people, that affects our view of God even. Right. And so I think James is concerned because when you look at this, right, he says, listen, don't be afraid of being under trial. Blessed are people who are going through trials. They're going through tough moments, right? most of us wouldn't say that a date is a tough moment, but we do know.
I don't know. I think most people would say it is a tough moment.
Most of you have totally different dates than me then. Most of
That's
us.
because you cheated and took your friend. That's cheating.
Most of us are, we're looking at those things that have happened in life, and we're looking at those trials.
Yeah.
And we're looking at how quickly can we get out of those trials.
Yeah. No, actually, I love this. I think it's very relevant to date night. And I think it's super relevant to the date night with Jesus thing. Because I think, like what you're saying, like we let everything tempt us away from having a date with God in any capacity. Like our distractions of work, our distractions of our spouses, of our like worldly date nights. Like we let everything tempt us away from having that alone time with God, because alone time with God is scary. Like we've had lots of alone time with God where it's like, oh, I didn't want to hear that. Like, whoa. Wait a minute. And that's the risk you take when you have alone time with God and you have a date with God. Because we all know, whether we admit it or not, that like once we hear from God, like you gotta do something with that. You have to. You can't just pretend like you didn't hear him. So no, I think it's actually super relevant to date night.
I think it's very relevant. I think, one of the things that we get concerned about, I think both you and Robbie know, and anybody who knows me listening knows I hate surprises. And so frequently when, Robbie will text me or call me and say like, hey, can we get together? And my normal line is, well, as long as you're not going to yell at me, right? As long as you're not going to say something I don't want to hear is really what that's translated. And I think sometimes that keeps us away from God, right? We don't want to have a moment with God because we know he's got some things he's probably going to tell us. Like we know when we're off track, right? And we follow the logic in this, right? Because it says that we're going to get we want to go through trials. We want to do them well because we're going to get a crown of life out of the whole thing, right? Again, being medieval minded in nature, anytime if something says sword, crown, or anything else like that, like my ears are like, I want that. Like I want to have that.
Don't want to miss out on my crown.
Right. Yes. Right. If it had said chocolate pie or something like that, it'd be a little less tempting, but like a crown, like I want that. Right. And it also says that it's promised by God to people who love him. Right. And I think of that I think of date nights, and I think of that whole concept of, listen, you and I have talked recently a bunch about, you did it in Sunday school, I mentioned it in church last week, about infatuation and love. Right. And I think sometimes we're just infatuated with God.
Don't steal my next Sunday school.
Right? I think sometimes,
don't do it.
I think sometimes we're just infatuated with God. We're not really in love with him.
No, you're totally right.
And I think that, that causes problems. Because again, you said last week, not this week, you said, infatuation wears off, right? It does. We wait until there's less texting. We wait till there's less phone calls. We wait till there's less, till all of a sudden they say, hey, you want to go on a date? And it's, I'm busy. Like, I have other stuff. Where it was, yes, I want to. Like, this, I'll move heaven and earth to get to go out with you. I think maybe God feels that way sometimes about us.
Oh, yeah.
He's looking down and going, I think maybe you're just infatuated with me because now I'm asking for time with you and you're saying no.
Right. And the whole infatuation thing is me. Right. So I think our infatuation with God goes like this. It's not like with humans, it goes like this. And then you're like, and it doesn't usually come back. Exactly. Unless there's a fear of losing them.
Yep.
Then it could come back. But like, I think with God, like, well, God's there. You're not going to lose him unless you walk away. So you can do this whole like, oh, God, you gave me this great thing. Life's great. And I'm doing all this stuff. And I love you. And then everything's good. Just like the Israelites, how they went like this all the time. And then you're in a bad spot because you kind of drifted away. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, God, I need you again. I'm infatuated with you again. And I'm reading my 1-second devotional. So fix my problems. And it's like, yeah.
I'm with you.
That's not love.
It's not, right? But James goes on and he adds to your infatuation and love thing by saying, listen, here's what happens when you're infatuated. Then all of a sudden sin right, has an opportunity. Temptations come with infatuation.
Right.
I love what you said. Infatuation's about me,
Right.
right? So I've never been infatuated in my life, right? But for all of you who have
superhuman
been,
skills he has.
right,
Everyone message him and find out how he does this.
everybody else has been infatuated in nature, including me, right? We get infatuated, and all of a sudden, infatuation leads us to places where love would never lead us.
Right.
Right?
It makes you stupid.
And so,
It
exactly,
does.
you don't
Makes
even
you
need
stupid.
don't even need any alcohol or anything else to get
No.
there. You
just do bad
you get
things.
stupid, right?
Yeah.
But God, James says something here that really throws a wrench into a whole bunch of people's world, right? James goes on to say that God doesn't tempt people. He can't tempt people because of his very nature. Right. Well, man, we throw around the God did this, God did that, God gave us this, God gave me cancer, God all over the time. God doesn't tempt us to sin. That's not his way of testing us, right? God allows us to go through temptation. Right? Like Job had the temptation to curse God and die, is what his wife wanted him to do.
Yeah.
Right? God could have stopped right there, the whole little trial that him and Satan were doing, and could have said, yeah, we're not going here, right? We don't want Job to curse me and die. But he didn't. He allowed Job to go through it. So God allows us to go through a bunch of bad dates. God allows us to go through a bunch of bad moments in life because he knows that it's a trial where there's a crown at the other side.
I think it's super, super, super important to know the difference between that. Like we just word it, God allows us, but everybody's like, oh yeah, but it's the same. God does it to you because God controls everything. But it does change the entire thing. Like if you think God is doing that to you, then you cannot understand what love is. Yeah. Like because that's not love. God wouldn't do it to you like that, the way that people say, if he loved you. And we know he loves you. So I think it is super important to understand the difference.
Yeah, and God wants us to love other people, right? Like we love ourselves. So the truth of the matter is you can't have a good date if it's all about infatuation.
No, because it's all about me. Like, oh my gosh, you guys, have you ever been on a date with someone that's just like, oh, my this, my that, my blah, 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 and then you're just sitting there and you're like, do you know my name is Bob? Because that's my name. And then you just leave and you're just like, yep, that was great. So if that's like the good side, what's it like 10 years later?
Exactly. One side of needs are getting met. Now, sometimes, like I like to talk, so sometimes
it's a nervous thing.
People are nervous and they just talk, right?
Yeah. But that's true.
But again, infatuation is, hey, like I want to control this moment, right? Infatuation is, hey, I want you. Right? And that's what James goes on to say is like, listen, that's what happens is that if we're not careful and it's about infatuation, then evil desires, right? Again, not all desires are evil. A whole bunch of desires are normal in nature.
Right.
They become evil when we allow the enemy to twist them and when it becomes about, I don't really love you, I just want you to meet my need.
Right. And when you act on them the wrong way.
Exactly.
When they become actual sin.
When we cross the line from hey, I want to love you, and believe it or not, you can love somebody well on the first date, right? You can decide to be all about love from your first date on, but when we cross that line and it goes from love to infatuation, and we start doing damage not just to ourselves, but we start doing it to the other person.
That's true.
That's how it works. Right? In God's economy with him as well. Right? When we start being infatuated with God and we start dropping name like, hey, heal cancer. Hey, heal this. Hey, find me the right person. Hey, do this. Hey,
you said you would, so.
Exactly. Right?
Fix me.
We start doing that, then we've crossed the line. God wants us to love him.
Yeah, and thankfully we can't trick God like we can trick people.
Yeah.
He's just like, nope. Yep. Not buying it.
I know why you're telling me that sweet nothing, right?
Yeah.
God, I love you. I love our good friend Robbie, has gotten now where he ends his prayers. I can say this because Robbie's a good friend. But he's always ending his prayers with, I love you, I love you, I love you. And you and I talk about the whole I love you thing and how, there are people who say it and, you really want to just say to them, show me.
Yeah,
right?
prove it.
And then there are people who say it and you just, they mean it.
Mm-hmm.
It's their love language. It's what they do.
Yep.
Right. And I think God sometimes is looking down at people and he's like, yeah, Robbie, I know you love me. Right. But then he's looking at other people in other moments and going, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that you really love me. You're just saying words. You're just talking.
Yep.
And we live in an economy where people throw out words to get what they want. And so, part of our encouragement to our listeners, to everybody who's watching this, right, is we want your date nights with Jesus, your date moments, your date days, your date mornings, whatever it is that you're having it. We want it to be about real love.
Yeah.
Not infatuation.
Amen.
Look at that.
Look at that. We turned this totally bleak passage into love. That's so good. Should we keep going?
Listen. No, I think we should stop because we did 3 verses or whatever it is. We're on a roll.
Actually, yeah, we did 1, 2,
They're just
3,
gonna have to wait till the next week.
4 verses. That's a lot.
Right.
You guys are lucky that didn't take like 4 hours.
We don't want to go from ending in love to continuing on with
He talks
don't be
about
deceived.
gifts and stuff, though. That's positive.
It gives them something to come back for.
That's true.
It's good date philosophy. Always give them a reason to come back.
Give them a reason to come back for more.
There
That
you
is
go.
such a guy thing to say.
I got it from Robbie.
You know what? I actually believe that this time because you definitely wouldn't have come up with that on your own.
That's exactly right.
Oh my gosh. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this Friday night on our date night with Jesus. We'll see you next week.